one-hour blog at cnnstudentnews.com. About 80% of you are saying there should be a law against texting while driving. We've got another story we'd love to hear your opinions about. That's coming up later in today's edition of CNN Student News. First up, though, rescue workers are searching for victims who might have been trapped by an earthquake that struck Indonesia on Wednesday. The 7.0 magnitude quake killed dozens of people. It left hundreds of others injured. And this is in the same part of the world where a massive quake claimed more than 200,000 lives back in 2004. In California, the station fire has driven thousands of residents out of their homes. Imagine a football field. Now imagine 140,000 of them. That is how big this blaze is. Fire officials said it was about 22% contained yesterday afternoon. There is a forecast for thunderstorms, which you might expect to be good news. But experts say that lightning could actually cause even more fires. And Hurricane Jimena has hit land. The eye of the storm slammed into Mexico's Baja Peninsula Wednesday. Jimena weakened to a Category 1 storm before it made landfall. It had been a Category 4 the previous day. Authorities say that as this hurricane moves up the peninsula, it could cause dangerous flooding along the coastline. Meanwhile, many waiting rooms across the U.S. are filling up with people concerned they may have the H1N1 virus or swine flu. But according to some medical experts, you don't necessarily need to head to the hospital unless you're experiencing certain symptoms. If you're having trouble breathing, if you're dehydrated, if you're vomiting and you can't keep fluids down, or if your energy level doesn't increase in between fevers. Dr. Sanjay Gupta did a full report on this issue. You can check that out at cnnstudentnews.com.
See if you can ID me. I'm a body of water joined to the Atlantic Ocean. My deepest point is about 17,000 feet below sea level. I'm surrounded by Cuba, Mexico, and the United States. I'm the Gulf of Mexico, and I'm home to large supplies of petroleum and natural gas.
Those supplies make up a big part of America's oil needs, and companies have been drilling in the Gulf for them since the 1940s. Now, one oil giant says it's discovered one of the deepest oil deposits ever. British Petroleum, or BP, is the largest oil and gas producer in the Gulf of Mexico. That company puts out 400,000 barrels per day. This new well that it drilled is about 35,000 feet deep, and it's actually BP's second big discovery in the same area of the Gulf. The company says it'll have to do some more research to figure out just how valuable this well is. Some financial experts think there's value not just in how you spend your money, but in what money you're spending. They believe change can help kickstart a struggling economy. We're talking about the kind you find between your couch cushions. Andrew Stevens makes sense of the issue with CNN.com international business editor Kevin Voigt.
So, Kevin, just explain, how does small change kickstart a big economy in times of recession?
Well, if you think about an economy like the U.S., the biggest in the world, according to estimates, there's $10 billion worth of spare change just lying around. It's not in circulation.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are interested in capitalizing on that. There is, however, evidence that people in times of recession around the world use change more. They are more free with their change.
They'll spend lower denominations.
Exactly.
Why is that?
I don't know. I mean, well, let's think of it this way. I mean, here we go. I got $100 and 5 20s. Which would you rather have, do you reckon?
I'd probably rather have the 100.
True, but you'd spend this faster, research
And that's
shows.
a fact, is it?
That's a fact, yeah. Researchers have found, both in the U.S. and also in China, they did a study with housewives in China and gave them a week's worth of salary. In large notes and small notes, they spent the small notes faster.
Now, is it the businesses other than retailers who get an advantage here as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's one business in particular, a business called Coinstar in the United States, which has one of the best performing stocks in the U.S. this year. It's up 70%.
And what do they do?
They basically take change. They do a number of businesses, but their core business is they take big cans of change and they change it into dollars or into debits to spend in the
Which
store.
gets it back out into circulation.
Exactly.
Time for the shout out. Which of these social networking sites launched first? If you think you know it, shout it out. Is it Friendster, MySpace, Facebook, or Twitter? You've got 3 seconds. Go. Of these sites, Friendster was the first on the scene. It launched in 2002. That's your answer, and that's your shout out.
Something all those sites have in common is they require a password. Most folks, like you and me, tend to keep those private. But a new policy at a private school in South Carolina could force students to give up their passwords based on what they might be doing off campus. Friendy Clairvaux of affiliate WJBF in North Augusta downloads the details.
Dr. Edward Martin Jr. is the principal at Victory Christian School in North Augusta. He says all students are required to follow their biblical curriculum.
We don't expect perfection, we expect compliance.
It's compliance to a new school policy that's turning some heads. If an administrator suspects a student of unruly behavior, that student could be required to give school leaders their password and username to their Facebook or MySpace account.
Several years ago, we had a student with I guess, MySpace, and he was bragging about the alcohol that he drank on the weekends. He was telling everybody he went to our school.
Dr. Martin says this policy is in place to protect the sanctity of the school, and it's not an invasion of privacy.
We're looking, again, for families that agree with this philosophy, and if they don't, that's fine. There's plenty of schools they can choose to go to.
Attorney Robert Mullins disagrees.
So it's basically an invasion of privacy. And if they were doing the conduct at school, on a school computer, that would be one thing. But if they're doing it at home, on a home computer, that's a totally different thing.
If the student insists on using Facebook or MySpace at school, which I think should not ever occur, then I think the school does have the right to monitor it.
On the other hand, I agree with the school. I mean, if it's a Christian-based school, then they don't want anything in their school that isn't appropriate.
And Martin claims to have backing. He says the school is following the advice of the South Carolina Association of Christian Schools.
Yes, this is the story we mentioned at the start of the show. We know you're going to have opinions on this one. We want to hear them. Head to our blog at cnnstudentnews.com, weigh in with your opinion, and only your first names. Well, before we go, we're heading to the drag strip. But it's not just muscle cars tearing up this track. Electric cars are making some noise. Or not. Poppy Harlow is off to the races.
People love their gas cars. All the noise and the smoke and the flames and everything. People love that stuff, so they're not going to go away.
Right now, I need the Warrior Pontiacs to lane 1, please. Warrior Pontiacs to lane number 1.
I think the electrics are here to stay as well.
Instead of putting gas in here, you put a plug
it right in here. That's right.
That used to be the gas tank.
That used to be the gas tank.
What got you hooked on electric cars?
The fact that my kids are going to have to inherit the world we live in, and I wanted to make it a better place for them. And so we needed a change. This is the brains, and this is the brawn.
We think of Porsche, we think of expensive. All in, what'd you buy the car for, and how much money did you put into it?
I paid $2,500 for the car. I've put less than $10,000 into the project altogether. And
less than $10,000.
Less than $10,000.
But then there are some pretty impressive new electric cars made by Tesla. The pickup in this thing is amazing. They're very expensive. They're about $100,000.
Nobody really came out and said, let's do a really high-end sports car and make it electric before the Tesla guys.
And who thought, even a few years ago, you'd be drag racing here in the middle of Maryland in an electric car? I mean, we're used to these kind of drag racers right over here. What's about to happen is two electric cars are going to drag race against one another right here. The difference between them and all the other cars here, it's absolutely silent. Take a look. I'm not kidding when I say you can even hear crickets right now.
It's quiet as crickets, but as slow as molasses. At least that's what it looked like to me. I don't know. What do you think? We'll meet you back at the starting gate tomorrow. For CNN Student News, I'm Carl Azus.